The numbers are 38, 12, 7, 30, 33, 26. Thanks for playing. The Pennsylvania Lottery benefits older Pennsylvanians every day.
Welcome to Philadelphia Live. I'm Judea Murray. We have a lot to talk about in the world of news today. You're taking a live look at a couple of different places. So first and foremost, to my right, you're taking a look at Boston. The Phillies are still playing the Boston Red Sox. Of course, we had a big win yesterday. It's very, very exciting. I'm hoping that we do the same again today. That game got started not too long ago, so we'll be touching base with our sports team. Wow, and it just really went over to the stadium. You can see it is packed out. A lot of people are out enjoying this pretty decent weather that we've been having up here in the Northeast. So again, we're going to be checking in with our sports team to just see how the guys are doing out there. Hopefully we're coming out on top again. We can only keep our fingers crossed though. Again, that game did just get started, did just get underway. I can only imagine the energy out there. And then to my bottom, you're actually taking a live look in Atlanta. This shows the CDC, but right next to the CDC, you actually get a shot of Emory University Hospital. We know that 2 of those Americans who were passengers on that cruise ship where the outbreak of the Hantavirus all started, they are being treated, taken care of, and under quarantine there in the hospital. Atlanta has been a really interesting place just to see how they're navigating this, what some people are calling a health crisis. We'll be checking in with one of our reporters soon, who's actually live from Nebraska, where 16 other passengers are also being watched over. So we'll be touching base with, how we're getting along. And one question that I'm going to be posing to you all throughout the night, so make sure you're getting ready to answer me, text me what you want to say here. My big question of the night is, are you comfortable and are you confident with the way the Hantavirus is being handled? We're hearing a lot of different things from officials, so we'll be touching base, letting you listen in to some of those press conferences that we've gotten throughout the day. And then I really want you to, answer. I won't give you the answers. You let me know what you feel. How do you think we're actually handling everything? And then to the bottom right side of the screen, you're seeing a live look at the Senate floor. Senators are actually still working as we speak, going over some of the most important topics of the day. One big thing that everybody is keeping their eye out for just across Congress altogether is, what's going to happen with fully reopening the government, which is so crazy to say, because I think we have forgotten that part of the government is still shut down just because we haven't been talking about it. But that's one of the things they're going to have to work out, that funding bill for some of our biggest areas of government, including ICE. As you all know, for the airport was a mess for a while, where TSA agents weren't getting funded for quite some time. They're getting their salary, but again, how long could all this last? We're going to have to come together at some point. So I did want to let you know that they are actively working, and maybe at some point during the show, we'll be able to listen in live to them. But I want to bring things back close to home. This is Philadelphia Live, after all. I'm Judea Murray. Right now in Philly, a lot of business owners are gearing up for Pride. I mean, it is a huge time of year for everybody. I have gotten to experience New York City's Pride. I've gotten to experience Atlanta's Pride. Now I want to know, how does Philly do things? And I hear this year, things are going to be pretty different. I want to get right out to Shauna Wilson, one of our reporters. Shauna, the big news right now, I mean, we knew this for quite some time. They're changing the location, but what does that actually mean for the people who are looking forward to this event all year long?
All right. Hi, Judea. So Philly Pride is happening the weekend of June 7th. So June 7th is going to be the day that the festival and the big parade takes place, although there are other events surrounding that in the days before and the days after. So for the past few years, it has been held here in the Gayborhood, which is where we are now, in the area of 13th and Walnut. So the changes this year include the fact that this is all going to be moved to the Parkway at Eakins Oval. It's also going to be a $10 charge to enter. So that is, I guess, has people divided over whether they think that that is a good idea. Some people say, you know, if it's not broken, don't fix it. You know, so you're always going to have people on both sides of this. And we may be showing you video of Pride from previous years right now. So it draws a very large crowd. Philly Pride 365 is the group that handles this and kind of rolled out the announcement recently about the location change. And what they are saying, and I'm reading from my phone here, which they put on their website, is that a big part of the reason for the move is that the festival has outgrown the neighborhood. So they are saying that 47,000 people attended in 2022. That number went up to 65,000 to 110,000 and an estimated 147,000 in 2025. So again, they're citing the major reason for the move is that, you know, the attendance keeps growing and, you know, safety is also a concern as you have more people attending the festival. So, you know, we've kind of been out and about in the area today talking to people. You know, it's mixed opinions here. You know, some business owners say, sure, this is something that we, you know, depend on. You know, this is our community. This is where we want everything to be. This is where people feel safe. And they wonder if people go to the Parkway and pay, you know, the $10 and other fees, you know, if people will actually return to the neighborhood when the festival is over to continue supporting the businesses here. On the other hand, there are some business owners who have shared with me that, you know, the big crowd does bring somewhat of a rowdy crowd, which I think can be said for many festivals, right? And so they think that maybe this move will help, and they feel confident that, you know, the community will come back into the neighborhood and support. So, you know, people feel differently on both sides of this. I also talk to just, you know, people in the area who say, you know, we like it here. Of course, we're going to come back and support the neighborhood, but, you know, you may lose some people because once they pay and they're there, you know, they may just run down the clock there before coming back. So it remains to be seen what will happen. But again, the organizers are saying that it is attendance growing, which is a good thing, as to the reason why they're moving it. And, you know, the $10 fee, Judea, you know, someone said to me, as the attendance grows, the cost of putting on this thing grows. Now, I know that I believe it's only been held here in the neighborhood for the past few years. Prior to that, it was at Penn's Landing, and some people seem to remember that there was a fee there. So perhaps the fee isn't, you know, the biggest issue. I think the biggest issue is many people just want it to remain here.
I guess that's fair. They say, you know, when things grow, you've got growing pains, so maybe it is time to open it up to a larger space. With that $10 charge, though, I'm just wondering how they're going to enforce that. Granted, I didn't see how it was done in the past, but if this is an open space, I mean, maybe through barriers?
I think someone did mention the barriers, and I reached out to the executive director of Philly Pride 365. Tyrell was unavailable today, but said that he could certainly, you know, talk tomorrow. We're going on TV tonight, though. But so in my mind, as you just described, it's probably going to be, you know, a roped off area. I also know that, you know, one other concern, Judea, is that someone shared with me vendors, you know, have been waiting to find out if they are going to be approved to vend at this new location. So there are a lot of moving parts here. I would imagine if there are vendors and they're charging $10, that there is going to be some sort of an entry exit situation happening there for the festival. It's one of the biggest ones, though, right? I mean, people come from all over. I actually met someone today who we'll hear from at 10 o'clock tonight who is from Maryland and says that he comes here all the time with his friends, and that he is excited, you know, about continuing to come here, and unsure about the change in location, but still going to support Philly and come out.
Love to hear it, and I'm actually really excited too. As I mentioned before, I've gotten to experience Pride in a couple of other different cities, so it's going to be interesting to see how Philly does it, how it's different out here, what's different. You know, I guess I'll have to pay that $10 cover too, so I'm in it with you guys. but
I mean, like,
you know,
most cities, Philly, we turn up for Philly Pride. So you know, there's no doubt that I don't think it's, you know, there's no way it's going to discourage people from coming. It's just a matter of how people are going to divide their time between the Parkway and then the neighborhood. I think that's what it is.
I'm going to be interested in seeing, you know, how the vendors feel about this as we get closer and closer. Maybe that would be another time where we could have that interview with, I forget his name that you said, was it Tyrell?
Tyrell, yes.
Yeah,
He's with Philly
yeah.
Pride 365, yes.
Yeah. So maybe that would be another time to try to get him later on. But yeah, just going to be interesting.
Yeah, and as
to see
we
how
get
this pans
closer,
out.
Judea, yeah, and we're June 7th, so maybe 3 weeks away. We're definitely going to revisit this by then, so we'll have him on.
Okay, beautiful. Shawnette, thank you so much for giving us this preview. And we'll let you all know if you'd like to get out there. We do have some information available for you already on our website. That is fox29.com. It's also the Fox Local app. That is a free app. You can download it, turn on your push notifications, then you'll know when we have breaking news, developing stories, and you'll get to watch some of our news back just in case you didn't catch it on cable. All right, so we're going to keep things going. A lot of different stories to bring you from all across the country. Definitely here in Philadelphia. We'll also be talking about New Jersey and Delaware. But have you guys heard this? I'm always trying to bring you financial news too because I want to help out with what's going on in your pockets. I'm hearing that there's something called bank spoofing that happens to be costing us like billions of dollars. They say the scammers are getting more and more sophisticated, and now there's a way that they're targeting, your pockets again. So I want to turn things over to Oliviana Calmy. She's joining us from New York. Oliviana, how does this spoofing work?
Yeah, these bank spoofing scams are basically where people will call you and it looks like your local bank. So it seems like you should answer that, right? But scammers are actually on the other side of that, trying to get you to transfer money right to them. And now this is startling enough, but AI is making everything even more convincing. The Federal Trade Commission estimates that about $158 billion is being taken from households each year. And one security expert I spoke with says these bank spoofing scams really work because people panic when they're convinced their money is in immediate danger.
It's kind of one of the more dangerous scams that are happening right now because it does use your own bank's credibility, right? They're making you feel like, your hair's on fire, you got to act without thinking.
Castellanos says he's seeing a growing number of these kind of scams, with fraudsters making it really sound like and even look like with the same phone number as your own bank. They often claim accounts have been drained or compromised, then pressure you to transfer money. Federal agencies are also warning about a rise in government imposter scams, like texts about unpaid tolls and fake USPS delivery alerts. So now JP Morgan Chase is helping raise awareness. They're announcing they're giving nearly $14 million to anti-scam programs and fraud prevention efforts.
The harm is really immediate for these families who are relying on essential funds. When these dollars are stolen, it's not abstract. It's their rent, it's gas, childcare, medicine, groceries.
The biggest tip, they say, is pretend like your phone is a front door. Be very careful who you let in. I'll send it back to you.
Ooh, I like that line. I'm taking that. Okay, so a couple of different things that I want to ask you about this report. You mentioned there that JP Morgan is donating or giving a couple $1 million to these programs. So talk to me about that a little bit more. Who would they be helping out if they go ahead and do this?
Yeah, so they told me there's about 6 or 7 different groups that this money will be given to, but really they're helping the most vulnerable groups first. That's lower income, older adults as well, and also young adults too. So those are the people disproportionately affected by these scams. You want to be extra on alert, especially if you're in one of those age groups, but that's who they're helping first before, of course, just everyone's susceptible to these. I've gotten the unpaid tolls, the USPS ones as well.
I was about to say the same for myself. I've definitely gotten those text messages and they're very annoying. Definitely go ahead and delete them. Don't even, if you have an iPhone, it actually gives you the option to report them as well. So make sure you're doing that. And I think it's really important when you mention the different groups that they're trying to help, the different groups that are being targeted, that you mention young adults are in there too. Because I think sometimes us younger folk, we think that we're technologically savvy. This will never happen to me until it does. Like when we're saying spoofing, they really truly can make it look like an actual official is reaching out to you, that it's actually your bank. It'll look, it'll sound, it'll seem like everything's right unless you know to ask the questions.
That's right, and with AI, they can really make it as convincing as possible. They can basically take a template of a, postal service email and tailor it to look right like it's meant for you. And if you're like me, you're ordering stuff every now and then from Amazon or wherever, and you probably have a package in the mail waiting to come anyway. So then you really think these are legitimate links to maybe check on or do what you need to do.
And so, Oliviana, I'm going to say what I think is the best way to do this. Let me know if you have any other thoughts, or from speaking to some of these experts, maybe you've heard something else. But if you did get a text, you did get an email, you did get a phone call, and you're not quite sure if it's real, I'm hearing that maybe you should look for your bank on, let's say, Google, or maybe you already have the app. Look for the official contact number, official email, reach out there to ask if they were actually trying to contact you. Is that what you're hearing is the right thing to do?
Yeah, definitely verify with who this person is claiming to be. But the experts I talked to said, if it's your bank account, they will never ask you on the phone to move money. So you just got to keep that in mind. They're never going to do that. And if you're wondering if they are, call your bank separately and make sure and verify all of that, and if they've actually called you about anything in particular. But they'll never ask you to do that. And then you mentioned earlier with the texts, but just block those numbers, do not respond, and you can report it even on your iPhone.
Yeah, so that all sounds fairly easy. Definitely you guys keep this stuff in mind. Oliviana, we appreciate you giving us this heads up of what to look out for. Again, she's calling it bank spoofing. Got another scam to worry about. Oliviana, thanks. Yeah, you guys, crazy stuff out there that we have to watch our backs, watch our wallets all the time just to make sure we're not getting scams. I'm glad that she was able to give us that advice so that we all can move forward, keep our money in our pockets. All right, there's a lot more that I want to get to, including the Hantavirus. We've been talking about it for weeks now. We know that the passengers are back here in the US. What does that mean? And more importantly, are you comfortable with what they're telling us, that we're okay, that this is not like the COVID-19 pandemic? Do you believe it? We'll be talking about why they're saying all these different things, what we're hearing lately when we come back. Welcome back to Philadelphia Live. I know you guys want to talk about the Hantavirus, Everybody's trying to figure out, what do we need to know? What's the latest information? And I'm here to bring it to you, joined by Kaylee Schuyler. So first and foremost, I'm hearing that there's a growing number of states that are on the lookout. We knew Nebraska was watching because, of course, people are there. We knew Georgia was watching because, of course, people are there. What are we hearing about these now 16 states that are on some sort of list, Kaylee?
Yeah, and there's a couple of different reasons that a lot of these states are starting to pop up, and I'll get to that in just a second. But here in Nebraska right now, the 16 people that are at the University of Nebraska Medical Center are all asymptomatic, and that's including the person who tested mildly positive for the virus and is currently in a biocontainment unit. The CDC this afternoon says that person has taken a test again, but they're still waiting on the results of that, and it will be here soon that everyone staying here could potentially leave the facility and go home to quarantine. But one official with Nebraska Medicine tells me right now they're not aware of anyone who is looking to leave the facility. One person who's staying in a quarantine unit shows us what life is like inside.
The room is very spacious and comfortable. I can have stuff sent here for the duration of my stay, so I'm definitely going to be getting some things for me to feel more at home and more comfortable.
Today, passengers are on day 3 of their stay. Jake Rosamarin, who has not tested positive, posting on Instagram yesterday a full room tour. He shows that it includes a desk, a stationary bike, and some medical gear. He says he can even have Starbucks delivered straight to his door. One of the doctors here described what goes into the quarantine effort.
And I'm part of the team that's doing their daily assessment. So we screen twice a day for symptoms and for fever. And then also one of the medical directors, myself or one of my colleagues, will go and do a screening either in person or over the phone as kind of deemed appropriate. Most of the time it's going to be in person early on in this.
All right, and you asked about those 16 states monitoring for potential hantavirus exposure. Health officials say most of the cases involve passengers of the cruise who got off last month before there was a known outbreak, and others who traveled with exposed cruise ship passengers. There's also the couple that was flown to Emory University in Atlanta for monitoring after returning to the U.S. from the cruise. One is experiencing symptoms but is not tested positive, and the other is considered a close contact. And we're also learning more about a person in Illinois who's being tested for hantavirus. That case is not connected to the cruise. Health officials believe that they are experiencing the North American strain, which is still initially contracted from rodents, but it can't transfer person to person. Back to you.
Okay, this is actually news to me. But as you mentioned, you're saying that particular strain, which by the way, Andes virus is the only strain that we know of that is person to person. They're saying that typically hantavirus is very rare, very hard to give to another individual. So hearing that this is a different strain, I would say is probably the silver lining that we've been waiting for in all of this. All right, let's go back to, I want to ask you just a couple of questions before I let you go. Let's go back to the rooms that you were showing us. This time we got some videos. We could see one of those people inside the room. So it's great to actually hear from a passenger. It's been very difficult to get them. We're playing the video as I speak to you. So you talked to us a little bit about what they're able to do there. They're able to get deliveries. I think you mentioned that the room is fairly spacious. Is there anything else we know about where they're being kept?
So something that I do think is interesting and also still have some more questions about is that they can get packages delivered. So Jake, who you saw, he's been giving daily updates, and today he's kind of shown that he's been receiving more packages. So he got a comforter in the mail. I don't know if it's a comforter from his home or if he ordered it, and just to make the room feel a little bit more homey, some snacks, some things like that. But one of the things that I really wondered about that I haven't been able to get questions on, and I'm sure it's a case-by-case basis, is what do the people do that can't work remotely? Because it seems like these people can maybe have laptops shipped to them if that's how they can work, but some of these people thought they were just taking PTO for a couple of weeks, and now they're potentially stuck at a quarantine facility for the next 40-ish days. So that's something I've kind of wondered about as well. But it seems like everyone is doing well. We've heard that everyone is in good spirits, so that's the good news here.
The other thing that I want to ask you, and we'll actually listen in a little while to a press conference where the CDC officials were able to talk back and forth with reporters who were asking questions. I heard one of the questions asked to them about that 42 days that they're supposed to be under quarantine, or at least being watched. Do we know if that is, how do I want to say this, heavily enforced, or if at some point in time people will be allowed to leave and go back home if they're not showing any symptoms anymore?
Yeah, so that's a scenario right now. We don't know exactly what day that is going to happen. Again, I've been asking those questions, but haven't been able to get answers. It sounds like they might not even know just yet, because for here specifically, the University of Nebraska and the CDC are coordinating to see what are going to be the correct next steps for each individual person. So they're only going to be able to leave the facility as long as they test negative and are not showing symptoms. And right now they say if no one's showing symptoms, they're not even testing them for the virus. So again, this is going to be a case-by-case scenario. They said there's a strict plan in place that if people do decide they want to leave, they're going to be geared up in full PPE gear. They're going to have basically federal escorts straight to their home, and they're going to make sure that they can isolate and stay away from people if that's the case, and also work with their local health department. So there's a lot at play here, but again, it is a tall task for these people to have to isolate and stay away from people for 42 days just so this doesn't spread.
Absolutely. I mean, when it was the coronavirus, we were talking about staying home for like 10, sometimes 15 days, and people didn't want to do that. So just imagine that 40 days, over a month, you're not seeing your loved ones. All you're doing are FaceTimes. I don't know. Hey, Kaylee, thank you so much for giving us a look at what's happening in Nebraska, but also showing us all around the country some of those other states that are at least watching out, looking out for the potential for virus to be in their areas as well. We appreciate it coming all the way here to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Now, a lot of you guys were asking some questions in the chat. I want to answer some of the different things that you guys have said. A lot of people are asking, where are all the other victims? Why are we just seeing this one guy be shown? So I mentioned this before, and I don't know if you guys took me seriously, but it has been extremely difficult to get one of these passengers, one of these victims, to talk about what they're going through in the media. And I just want you to think about that for a second. There was a point in time where they were willy-nilly showing what's going on, showing video, letting people know what was happening on social media. And then media started reaching out, trying to see if they would like to be on the news, not just our station, but others as well. And it was like an influx of hate also coming to them on social media. And after that, there were quite a few people that just decided they wanted nothing to do with talking about the Hantavirus. So there are plenty of people who you will not hear from, who you will not know have this virus or are in quarantine or are getting tested, because they don't want that attention, that negative attention on them. And we have to respect them when they feel that way. However, there are also some people out there, like that guy who's also an influencer, so he's used to being in the spotlight, who are okay with showing what's going on, with keeping their followers updated. So that was somebody who was willing to post a video, post pictures, post himself and his face out there online. That's why we were only seeing him. However, it could be that in the coming days, weeks, maybe we will start hearing from other people coming back out, feeling a little more secure in talking about what's going on with them. All right, so, oh man, someone said should have just left them on the boat. Why are they bringing them into the country? I mean, I get where you're coming from, but think about that too. If you were on a cruise ship and you thought that it was just for vacation for a couple of days, you just wanted to get away from the office or from school or whatever, and now you're hearing that you're going to be stuck on the water for, now it would be about 2 months, because that ship actually took off April 1st. They were out there for almost all of April. May is when Spain said, hey, you guys can dock in the Canary Islands. We'll get medical professionals out to you, and then we'll be able to take you to the various countries. They're in multiple continents right now, where they'll be able to get help, they'll be able to be seen, they'll be able to get tested, and eventually be able to go home. So I understand the side of, hey, if you had it all contained in one spot, just leave it in that one spot. But also we have to have humanity for other people, because imagine if you were on that cruise ship, you didn't choose to get sick, it just maybe happened. So, we'll continue keeping an eye out for that. But I did mention that earlier today, the CDC actually had a press conference. So the plan was they would be talking to the media. As journalists asked heavy, hard-hitting questions. And I have to say, it was quite interesting to hear how the CDC responded. quite a few times it kind of sounded like they were just going back over the same information, almost like, to be honest, like they were reading it from a sheet of paper. I want to let you guys listen in. We have about 10 minutes here, but I want to let you know that full press conference is about 20, but let's listen in to about 10.
From the earliest stages of this outbreak, CDC has been working in close coordination with state and public health authorities, with federal partners, including ASPR and the State Department, and international health partners, including countries that have been impacted by this. CDC activated our emergency response in Atlanta immediately and has more than 100 staff actively working on this response. Operationally, we've been engaged at every step. As soon as we were notified by the IHR, we responded and connected with international partners and developed guidance for the American passengers on the ship. We provided information about Andes virus to the passengers on board and also have kept them updated here in the United States through our staff on the ground, as well as through calls with them to answer their questions. The CDC team was deployed to the Canary Islands to provide public health expertise on site, including speaking with each individual U.S. citizen about their potential exposure. 2 members of that team actually then joined the American passengers on the repatriation flight back to Nebraska. An additional CDC team met the plane when it landed in Nebraska and is conducting assessments and supporting the passengers now that they've returned to the United States. CDC also published a HAN prior to the repatriation of the American citizens. In addition, CDC has posted a toolkit, an FAQ document, current situation overview, and fact sheet on our updated webpage. We have held 2 Hill briefings and have just completed a call with the governors from the states with repatriated Americans. We've also held daily calls with state health officials. Our role now is to continue our conversations with each passenger about their potential exposure and work with partners to ensure appropriate monitoring. We're sharing real-time information with state and federal partners, so decisions are based on the health assessments of each passenger and the best available evidence. CDC currently recommends testing only for people with symptoms. There is a blood test specifically for Andes that has been validated, as well as a PCR test for Andes, but it's currently for research use only and not used for patient care yet. And of course, we will continue to work with state and local health departments if needed. We are focused on delivering safe, respectful care and transparent communication to the individuals who returned and their families. To the American public, please know we are here to protect your health. Based on current information, the risk to the general population remains low. So far, our response has followed our playbook, with swift action across federal, state, and local public health. The systems and partnerships that we've built exist precisely for situations like this. The work isn't always visible, sharing information with state and local health departments and coordinating guidance and monitoring, but it never stops. It's deliberate, it's coordinated, and it's essential to keep our communities safe. I'll now turn over the call to Dr. Brendan Jackson, who's leading the CDC team in Nebraska.
Great, thanks, David. My name is Brendan Jackson, and as David said, I'm CDC's team lead in Nebraska, and I'm a medical epidemiologist. So we currently have a dedicated team of CDC health professionals deployed here in Nebraska responding. Our team's been working around the clock to ensure the health and safety of everyone involved. We're currently conducting public health assessments on site. These in-depth health assessments include asking each passenger about their exposure to the confirmed cases. And the University of Nebraska team here is conducting regular temperature monitoring, symptom screening, and general wellness evaluations. This particular virus has a long incubation period, so the monitoring period is 42 days. And the 42 days started with the departure of the ship. So May 11th was the day 1. We're here to support the people who have returned from the ship and the excellent Nebraska team here in Omaha. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jackson and Dr. Fitter. Shirley, at this time, I'd like to open it up for questions.
Thank you. If you are a credentialed member of the media and would like to ask a question during the call, please press star 1 on your touch-tone phone. Press star 2 to withdraw your question. You may queue up at any time. Our first question comes from Erica Edwards with NBC News. Your line is open. You may ask your question.
Hey, thanks so much for doing this. I was curious whether the passenger who was considered a mildly positive case has been retested back here in the U.S. was that test the one that Dr. Fitter mentioned? And I'm curious what the turnaround time for those test results are. And also, if you could just talk a little bit about the decisions being made about possibility of quarantining at home, any more specifics you have about what those people might be able to do or cannot do if they are determined to be able to quarantine at home. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The initial test that we received was from abroad, and it was inconclusive in its results. And so we're in the process of testing currently, and we hope to have those results back in a day or so. With regards to home monitoring, we're working very closely with states and jurisdictions, as well as with the passengers themselves and other contacts to ensure that they have the information they need. We're taking a conservative approach on this, and we really are encouraging people to stay at their homes and work very closely with their state and local health departments to ensure that they are appropriately monitored in that space.
Next question, please.
Thank you. One moment, please, for our next question. Question comes from Wael Alui from Atlanta News First. Your line is open. You may ask your question.
Hi, 2 questions. The first, can you hear me okay?
Yes, please go on.
Okay, first question, can you just elaborate on the couple taken to Emory and just their current conditions?
Yes, we don't talk about the specific individuals, really to respect the privacy of everybody.
I figured. So totally understandable. The second question I had is, I know most reports have said there's very low risk to the general public at this point. What would you say to people who have concerns about the comparison to COVID-19? If you remember, some of those early reports also said low risk to the general public.
Yeah. This is not a novel virus. This is a known virus, and we've seen this in the United States before, and we know how to respond to it. And that's what we're doing, and we're putting into action all of the things that we have in place to ensure that American communities remain safe and healthy. And what we really want to do is ensure that we're also communicating about this, and we'll continue to update the U.S. about everything that we're doing in multiple ways through our websites and other endeavors like this.
Next question, please.
Thank you. Our next question then comes from Ting Huang with NPR. Your line is open. You may ask your question.
Hi, thanks so much for doing this. I have 2 questions as well, both about quarantine. So first of all, I'm wondering if any federal or state authorities are currently being used to quarantine any of the people exposed to Hantavirus, or if it's all voluntary at this point. And secondly, I wanted to ask about the home quarantine situation because people's homes don't have isolated negative air pressure rooms. It's hard to guarantee 100% adherence. I'm wondering if that worries you or concerns you at all about the people who are or will be monitoring from home.
So currently, there are no state or federal quarantine orders that have been drawn. We're working really closely with all contacts to ensure that they understand what is expected for them to appropriately monitor themselves. But we also want to make sure that they have the right information so that they can understand the situation as best as possible. I can't tell you how much I appreciate our state and health local partners with what they've been doing. They've been doing multiple checks daily to ensure that everything is going well for people. They've been explaining the situation to them as well. I think everybody should be extraordinarily proud of the network of partners, of state and local health partners that we have in the United States. Our goal is to ensure that we're able to follow our monitoring guidelines, but to work with passengers to ensure that they're able to do it. And if they need to do it somewhere else, we will work with them. We will work with the state and local health departments to ensure that that happens as well. Again, I just really want to reiterate the The safety and health of the passengers is critical to us, as well as the safety and health of the American communities.
All right, so as I mentioned, we were going to listen to about 10 minutes of that call where the CDC answered questions from the media. They also gave an update to where we are with everything that's going on. We know that some passengers, some patients are being held in Nebraska, and we also know that some are being held in Georgia, so that's closer to us here on the East Coast. Well, depending on where you guys are watching from right now, but a lot of the audience is watching from Philadelphia, New Jersey, and Delaware. So actually, let me know where you guys are watching from. I see a lot of you guys interacting in the live stream chat amongst yourselves. Wow, someone says, can we all start the quarantine? They said they want the summer off because they can't work another pandemic. Well, this is not a pandemic as officials are telling us. Right now, it looks like we are just keeping an eye out for what's happening. They say they've got it all under control. And that actually leads into the big question of the night that I will continue to pose. And I want you guys to weigh in the comment section. We also have a poll where you can go vote on it. We'll be touching base with Jake Leonard from their digital team just to tell you how to access that poll in just a little while. But the big question is, how do you feel? Are you confident in the way that the Hantavirus is being handled? Why not? We'll talk about all of that when we come back. Welcome to Philadelphia Live. If it is live, if it's breaking news, it's happening here. My name is Judea Murray. Alabama has become just the latest state to join this redistricting, this gerrymandering fight that we have been talking to you all about for a couple of weeks now. We mentioned Louisiana, we showed you Tennessee, we showed you a couple of other states where we're hearing that Republicans are attempting to redraw the lines in which they believe that it'll help them in the upcoming election. But we're also hearing from both sides, whether people are in favor of it, whether people are not. I want to bring in one of our reporters who's live for us in Huntsville, Alabama right now. This is Asher Red. Asher, first tell people hi.
Hi there, Judea. This is really under a very tight window to get this done. Alabama Attorney General Steve Marshall says that an election is coming up less than a week away. So this could create a potentially sticky situation for the voters in the central and southern parts of the state of Alabama. But Alabama is very familiar with redrawing their congressional lines. In 2023, a 3-judge panel ordered the state to use a court-imposed congressional map with 2 majority black districts through 2030. But Alabama Attorney General Steve Marshall appealed that decision after the U.S. Supreme Court ruled last month that states can no longer use race as a factor when drawing congressional lines. On Monday, the Supreme Court overturned that 2023 ruling and directed a lower court to reconsider the case. The same 3-judge panel just ordered a briefing over the next several days, and they want the state to explain whether they can effectively hold elections in a manner of months using the updated map. Now, Alabama's Attorney General says the Supreme Court's ruling is crystal clear.
I think you've seen the SCOTUS be very clear now and say that race-based criteria in drawing districts is absolutely inconsistent with the Constitution. In fact, it is antithetical to who we are as a people when we allow color to drive decision-making, whether it be politically or otherwise.
Now, right now, Republicans hold a very slim majority in Congress. Other states like Tennessee and Florida have already passed new congressional maps, which could help give Republicans more slack. Republican Congressman Barry Moore's district in South Alabama is one of the 4 districts that'll be affected. And even though he's been through this before, he says he still supports the state's redistricting efforts.
You might not know another member in the history of the Congress that's had his district redrawn back-to-back terms. Because I know it's like a rare thing in Alabama for it to happen when it happened last time. For it to happen back-to-back to a congressman, that really is crazy. And that's what happens when the courts get involved and don't let the state legislature do their job.
Meanwhile, Democratic Congressman Shamari Figures, whose seat could be at risk, says Republicans are acting in bad faith. He wrote in a statement in part, quote, "This is an incredibly unfortunate decision by the Supreme Court that not only continues their trend of breaking from the norms and precedents set by the court, but also sets a stage for Alabama to go back to the 1950s and 60s in terms of black political representation in the state." Now, Alabama Governor Kay Ivey has set a special primary election for August the 11th for those 4 districts that are affected, and that won't have any runoff election behind it, which essentially means that whoever those top vote getters are will be the nominees, even if they can't pass that 50% mark. Jediah?
Okay, this is interesting to me, Asher. It leads me to a big question. I mean, how are they communicating this to the voters? Yes, you said August 11th, but realistically, that's not that far away. How are they making sure the voters know, like if this were to go into action, how are they making sure that the voters know what the new districts look like so that they're voting, accordingly?
I sat down and spoke with the Attorney General yesterday, and I asked him that very question, and he said that's what the legislators are trying to hammer out right now as they are set to go before that 3-judge panel again very soon. And that's part of what the panel wants from this, the Secretary of State's office, not just what day they can get a map in, but also their plan to get this out to voters, because this will affect, like I said, most of the central and southern parts of the state. Now, I've been speaking with people all over the South about this. This is the, I think, 4th or 5th state that I've been in that's redistricted in just the last year. Texas, Virginia, here, and then now we've also seen in Tennessee last week, and a lot of voters that I've been speaking with simply don't understand what's going on. I mean, there's people who vote for president, but that's about it, and they don't understand what redistricting really means on the national scale. And so a lot of voters simply want to know and be more informed as to what's going on.
Now, Asher, I know I don't have that much more time with you, but I want to pick your brain on one last question. You've gotten to see a couple of these different states, how it plays out there. So have you ever seen where once they redistrict, some of these candidates now live outside of the district that they're trying to represent?
Yeah, so the congressman you just heard from, Barry Moore, I actually used to work in Mobile, Alabama a few years ago, and he was one of the congressmen that was running who was from, if you're familiar with Alabama, Dothan, which is the very southeast corner of the state. He ended up being drawn out of his district, which was District 2, into District 1, and had to rerun for the District 1 seat against the incumbent, who was Jerry Carl at the time. He beat Jerry Carl, but he made a very interesting point when I spoke with him yesterday. He said he grew up in a region called the Wiregrass, or otherwise known as the Redneck Riviera, which is, there's a military base out there. They do a lot of shipbuilding. But when he was drawn into the district of Mobile, Alabama, that's, 100 miles away across the entire state. He had to learn how people go about shrimping and, building shrimp boats and also fishing and the things that, 100 miles away you don't have to worry about. He says it's a very difficult thing, but he did end up having to run again to win that district as well.
Very interesting stuff here. Thank you for your expertise. I'm going to let you go so you can get ready for some of the other stations that you have to do some reporting for. But for you guys watching out there, we actually have a map, a tracker that Asher was able to give us. I want to let you take a look at it. As he was mentioning, a couple of different states where we are seeing redistricting come up again and again in our headlines. Taking a look at some of the states there. I mean, take a look. Are any of the states the ones that you guys live in? Really interesting stuff as you see where it's been blocked, where it's being contested, and how the states have turned. It's really interesting to take a look at there. All right, listen, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want to go over some of our trending stories of the day. We'll touch base with Jake Leonard. And then again, I'm posing that question to you all. We've learned a little bit more about the Hantavirus and where it is at today. But how do you feel about the official messaging that we have been getting from the government, from different entities like the CDC, the WHO? How do you feel about all of that? Are you confident in how they're handling things? We'll touch base on all of that and more when we come back. Welcome back to Philadelphia Live. We're talking all things Hantavirus right now, Jake. I mean, we keep seeing every single day we're hearing from officials, whether it's the World Health Organization, the CDC. They actually held a press conference today. And I just want to know, how are you guys receiving all of this information? Do you feel confident and comfortable with the way that they say that they're handling all of this? So we asked the people.
Yeah, so we put up a poll. You can find it fox29.com/go vote under the Fox Local tab. And so we pose a question: are you confident in the way Hantavirus is being handled? So as you can see, yes, 33%, no, 51%, unsure, a little bit mixed. leave a comment, that's 16%. So
people have voted as you were reading that
yeah.
too.
So as always, chime in, vote on the poll, or leave a comment on all our social media. You know, this is posted on our Instagram story, Facebook, X. You know, I'm scrolling through right now. We have
we got a lot of comments.
A lot of comments. A lot of people are saying they're not feeling confident. You know, a lot of uncertainty, it seems like. I feel like a lot of people are nervous that this might turn into a similar situation as COVID, although we have heard from officials that this is not going to be COVID 2.0, as some people are referring to it. But I feel the general consensus is that there's a lot of just uncertainty. You know, people really don't know what to think. We have some people going to quarantine for almost a month. I think it's over a month, actually.
They're saying 42 days.
Yes,
so over
42 days. So that's going on, you know. There's like a lot of information, misinformation being spread. So
that is very, very true.
So a lot of people are unconfident just because I feel like a lot of people don't really know what's going on.
Yeah, I think the thing too, this is what I was gathering as you guys were writing in our comment section while we were listening to that press conference earlier with the CDC. It kind of seems like maybe people are unhappy with the explanation behind why they have made certain decisions, or maybe even just not getting much of an explanation behind some of the decision making. For example, I keep seeing people ask, why didn't we just keep them on the ship?
Yes.
And while it sounds like a common sense answer of that's not humane,
right?
I mean, I think scientifically there probably is a much better answer.
Yes.
But maybe we're not hearing it from our officials just yet. But these are the kinds of questions that people actually want to know.
Yes. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get this information to you guys to kind of clear things up, because I know it can be scary when there's a bunch of uncertainty. So we'll continue to provide that information.
Concerned about their health. People are just trying to figure
definitely.
out whether they'll have a summer break. Because not for nothing, COVID kind of hit us in the springtime too. Granted, that was March, and then definitely by April we were shut down. But I think it's just ringing a little close to home for some people.
100%.
We also got some comments on my TikTok. Someone said this is a potential for an issue. The potential for an issue is certainly there, and it will likely be June before we know how this is going to go. That's what somebody is thinking. And then someone else says they feel the officials, they don't know. I suggest people start they're talking about the masks and bikes, social distancing and monitoring where they go. I don't want to instill fear in you guys until I'm hearing from people who study this all of the time. And Hantavirus is not anything new. Andy's virus actually isn't anything new. But until I hear from people who have actually studied this, who have a little more rigor, I guess you could say, tell me something more substantial, just gonna keep living my life.
Just absorbing the information. I actually saw, I think it was on your Instagram story, you reposted, it was like an interview with a doctor who had been treating patients, and that was very informative.
Well, first of all, thank you for checking out my Instagram story. I'm Judea Marie on all platforms. But someone said they treated Hantavirus when there was that outbreak back in 2012. Because like I said, this isn't anything new. And so I guess from an expert, how are they suggesting that we move forward? What's new, what's not? That's on my Instagram story if you guys would like to check it out. So, all right. So we got that there. You guys remember, if you want to comment on this or vote in our poll one more time, where can they go?
The poll itself is located at fox29.com/go vote, always under the Fox Local tab, but you can also join the conversation on Instagram, Facebook, X, or even in the TikTok chat. I put the link to the poll, or if you just want to leave a comment that we can read on air, you know, there's a lot of places for you to get involved, and we would love to hear what you had to say.
Absolutely. Okay, first of all, Jake, thank you so much.
Thank you.
No problem. All right, when we come back, I'm hoping that I'll be able to give you this live look out in Washington, D.C. We kind of teased this yesterday, that Candlelight Vigil. We're honoring a bunch of, I'm talking about over 300 officers who have lost their lives in the line of duty. There is a Candlelight Vigil happening today. We're hoping to bring you out there live when we come back. Welcome back to Philadelphia Live, you guys. Every single year, the names of hundreds of officers who have lost their lives in the line of duty are engraved into the walls of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial out in Washington, D.C., which isn't too far from us here in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Today marks the 38th annual Candlelight Vigil. It's taking place as we speak. You're taking a live look out at the podium there. This is on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. They're memorializing all of the people who have sacrificed everything for their communities. I want to let you guys listen in.
If lightning were to strike within 6 miles of here, we will have to, at best, pause the ceremony and at worst, cancel it. And there are some contingency plans where we might ask you to temporarily evacuate to a nearby museum or the nearby buses. My strongest hope is that we do not have to implement any such plan, and in my desire to avoid such a plan, we have to some degree abbreviated tonight's ceremony so that we can get to the reading of the names, the reading of your loved ones, the reading of our heroes. So to some degree, look for tonight's ceremony to not be within the normal course of business for what you might have otherwise expected. Before I begin, I'd like to thank the United States Park Police Color Guard, and I'd like to thank Reverend Hutchins for that beautiful invocation. And of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank my friend and prior police officer Frank Ray for that absolutely beautiful rendition of our national anthem. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the Memorial Fund Board, Attorney General Blanche, Senator Klobuchar, distinguished guests, including at least a dozen members of Congress and the audience who are joining us tonight, citizen supporters, and to all of those who join us this evening, and to the thousands joining us across the country via live stream, I'd like to officially welcome you to the 38th Annual National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund's Candlelight Vigil. We, as a nonprofit, have existed since the very beginning, and continuing through today as an organization that has depended entirely on donations. We exist, the memorial exists. The Candlelight Vigil only happens every single year by virtue of people across the country who donate generously, and to a handful of companies who help support us. They haven't asked for any recognition. They look for no fanfare, but I feel a responsibility to help highlight them. Now, I have been in the audience before, and to some degree my eyes glaze over when people start talking about sponsors, but for my part, I hope to some degree this resonates with you, that there are companies in our country who recognize the service and sacrifice of our heroes, your loved ones, and they certainly deserve some recognition. So tonight, importantly, I would like to highlight Motorola Solutions Foundation, Mission Square, importantly, the Police Unity Tour. If you missed it, they just wrote in yesterday and are contributing this year the largest amount they've ever contributed, $2.5 million. Thank you, Police Unity Tour. But really importantly, tonight I'd like to highlight Verizon Frontline. Verizon, you see the truck behind me. You see their equipment behind you. They have spent weeks in preparation with us trying to build up this site, provide cell repeaters. They have an emergency signal behind me to make sure the live stream stays up. And independent of all that, for years and years and years and time again, they contribute to help make tonight possible. So thank you, Verizon Frontline, for your continuing support. I had written a speech tonight, and I'm going to forego that speech, and I'm going to defer my time to the Attorney General, who I know would like to say a few words on behalf of what I know is a grateful nation. But I will just say here that the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial, your National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial, has stood from the beginning and continues through to today, the manifest promise of our nation to forever remember the heroism and courage displayed by your loved ones, to forever remember the names of your loved ones, our heroes. So may God bless you all. May God bless all those in law enforcement, and just as importantly, the families that stand beside them. Thank you.
Please welcome Lori Sharp Day, Managing Partner of the Ashcroft Law Firm and Board Chair of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund.
On behalf of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund Board of Directors
It is my true honor and privilege to welcome you tonight. As Bill said, we all have speeches, but we're going to cut to the chase so we can get to why we're all here, and that's the reading of the names and lighting of the candles. But to our federal leaders, to the dignitaries on the stage and in the audience, thank you for making tonight a priority, to making standing with us to honor America's fallen heroes a priority in your day and in your schedules. And it's only appropriate that we're doing this on the National Mall under the lights of our Capitol building, because we're here so the nation can bear witness to the sacrifice that law enforcement officers make every day to keep us safe. And as chairs of the fund, and again, I just want to reiterate that this board commits to you that you will never be forgotten, and even when you go home, you have our undying support. But when we all leave tonight, after the names are read, candles have been blown out, have those candles as your light and your commitment to the following, and that is to speak the names of law enforcement officers who've given the ultimate sacrifice. Tell their stories. Support actively, publicly, and consistently for those who still serve and wear the badge. Support them not just in crisis, but in the ordinary days in between. And when the world grows busy again, let this light remain. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Todd Blanche, Acting Attorney General of the United States.
Thank you very much. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to say a few words tonight in this 38th year of what is a solemn and sacred observance, but also, in my mind, a time to move forward and to be happy and to think about the blessed country that we have the privilege of living in no small part because of the people, the men and women who paid the ultimate sacrifice, but also the men and the women who I'm looking at right now, who have given their lives, either themselves or because they're family members, to protecting me and to protecting your citizens and our community. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. And we live in a dangerous world. And we ask men and women like you and like the fallen to run into danger when many of us would not. And we take that for granted sometimes, but we shouldn't. And the week that we're having here, that we have every year in Washington, D.C., is the perfect opportunity for every one of us to realize and recognize the importance of a cop, of a public safety officer, of a federal officer, of a firefighter, of the men and women that keep us safe inside this country. There is nothing more important. I had the privilege, when I was in private practice, of representing a widow of a police officer in the NYPD. I see all your hats there. Of an NYPD officer who was murdered in the Bronx. And I represented her when she was going through the most difficult time in her life. And the strength and the love and the support and the courage that she had to move forward came from one place, from what I observed. And that one place was the community of law enforcement that literally surrounded her 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to make sure that she and her children were able to move forward financially, spiritually, emotionally, physically. And so when you see somebody suffering because they lost a loved one, and you help them, I will tell you from firsthand experience that it makes a difference. And so to the extent that what you're doing here today does that, it works. And I think that there's fewer things that we can do as a law enforcement community than wrapping our arms around the families and the loved ones of the men and women who paid the ultimate price to keep us safe. So I also want to get to the reading of the names, which is obviously the reason that we're here. But I will just say that the folks behind me from DHS and Secret Service and ICE and the Department of Justice and DEA and ATF and FBI and the Marshals Service, we back the blue every single day of the week, 24 hours a day, no matter what. And it is our honor and our privilege to be here on this stage. And I promise you that will not change. That will not change no matter what happens, no matter what the days go forward. And so on behalf of a very grateful nation and administration, God bless you, God bless America, and thank you all for being here tonight.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dave Wallace, National President, Concerns of Police Survivors.
Good evening. I too will keep this short. I am terribly blessed to be the president of Concerns of Police Survivors, and I want to thank the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund for hosting this beautiful service and the tribute that it gives to our fallen heroes. I'm going to cut this short. Just want to finish I want to say this as a promise to you from Concerns of Police Survivors. Long after these ceremonies end, long after the crowds go home, we will still be here. We're here for the long haul. If you will allow us, we want to walk beside you. We want to help you honor your officer, not just for how they died, but more importantly for how they lived. We want to help you tell their stories, preserve their legacies, and support you as you navigate this difficult road ahead, because there is hope. This board and our members across this nation of 53 chapters stand in living proof that even after profound loss, something meaningful can grow. Like a phoenix rising from the ashes, healing is possible. Not easy, not quick, but possible. And you do not have to do this alone. We will walk alongside you as you navigate your tomorrows. And we ask you that you walk alongside us as we continue to navigate ours. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless our nation's law enforcement.
The National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial was dedicated 35 years ago. Every year since, the names of the fallen have been read aloud to honor their sacrifice. Tonight, we continue that proud tradition with the reading of the 363 names that were added to the memorial in 2026. The names will be read by the Memorial Fund's Board of Directors and other special guests. They will be read in the order of the state in which they served. The candle lighting in honor of these and all of our nation's fallen law enforcement heroes will occur immediately following the reading of the names. Please refrain from lighting your candles until after the memorial candle is lit on stage and the flame is passed on to all of you. At this time, we will begin this evening's Roll Call of Honor.
From the state of Alabama, Sean Nixon, Joe Keith, Mark A. Meadows, James Phillips.
From the state of Arizona, Gabriel M. Facio, Sean A. Broughton.
From the state of California, Alex J. Sanders, Samuel S. Riveras, Joshua L. Bird, Terry D. Long.
Continuing from the state of California, Lauren A. Craven, Charles Crow, Sho L. Deng, Osmar E. Rodarte Paez, Dennis Haley.
Continuing from the state of California, Joshua R. Kelly Eklund, Victor M. Lemus, William C. Osborne, Noah H. Rader.
Continuing from the state of California, Timothy B. Corlew, Hector A. Cuevas, Jr., Andrew Nunez. From the state of Connecticut, Frank T. Linehan.
From the state of Delaware, Dennis F. Kelly, Matthew Tyler Snook.
From the state of Florida, Andre J. Lahara, Jeremy H. Cassidy, Craig A. Gaines, Terry J. Sweeting Mashkow, David A. Cahuso, Devin M. Jaramillo.
Continuing from the state of Florida, Alton D. Berrien, Alan I. Refson, William P. T. May, Luther T. Howard.
From the state of Georgia, Charles A. Vick, Brandon R. Sykes, David R. Rose, Patrick J. Lappin.
Continuing from the state of Georgia, Jeremy R. Labonte, Ernest L. Hall, Helio A. Garcia III, James A. Carter.
From the state of Hawaii, Suzanne O. From the state of Illinois, John F. Abbott, Kadmir Andrusis, Walter Birmingham, Charles C. Bishop.
Continuing from the state of Illinois, James P. Clark, William Clifford, Cornelius Kaminsky, Daniel Coughlin.
Continuing from the state of Illinois, Benjamin F. Devlin, William E. Imstad, John J. Fetcher, Patrick Ford, George A. Gall, Henry E. Gorman.
Continuing from the state of Illinois, Oscar Hallen, Timothy L. Haynes, Clarence Hofheinz, Yaroslav J. Janasek, Alex Johnson.
Continuing from the state of Illinois, Maurice F. Kane, Lars M. Larson, Edward J. Madden, Thomas A. Mahoney, John Malone.
Continuing from the state of Illinois, Michael J. Mooney, Jeremiah O'Dwyer, Crystal Rivera, Charles G. Schuler, John H. Singelman.
Continuing from the state of Illinois, Andrew Sullivan, Frank Tatuic, Richard Thompson, Rudolph Turk, John Joseph Walsh.
Continuing from the state of Illinois, Glenn T. Wallen, James Wilson, Timothy M. Jones, George Fries, Charles Chandler, William Otis Peebles.
From the state of Indiana, Roy James Tipton, Blake A. Reynolds, John C. Stahl III.
From the state of Iowa, Charles Lodine, Augustus C. Becker, Reuben Fenstermaker, Robert W. Colter, Samuel S. Kronk.
Continuing from the state of Iowa, Samuel H. Hamilton, James W. Busby, Elmer J. Lennon, John Kerr Myers, Charles Locks.
From the state of Kansas, Scott W. Hyman, Hunter L. Simonsi, Frank L. Stone, Brandon P. Gady, Elijah L. Ming.
From the Commonwealth of Kentucky, George Ramirez, Frank Beard Bell, James Duncan Stevens, Millard Brock, Fred Cole.
From the state of Louisiana, Caleb M. Eisworth, Charles W. Riley, Joseph J. Lyons, Alan J. Crador Jr., Grant J. Candies, Mark T. Brock.
From the state of Maryland, Brenda J. Lowry, Edward E. Ivy, Jr. From the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Joshua T. Kingsley.
From the state of Michigan, Kelvin O. Patrick, Rhonda E. Morris, Shannon A. Wright, John Craig.
From the state of Minnesota, Richard E. Legler, Felicia D. Riley.
From the state of Mississippi, Martin L. Shields, Jr., Brian A. Pippin, Joshua A. Brashears.
From the state of Missouri, Eddie A. Mays, Horry M. Fish, Henry J. R. Franklin. From the state of Montana, Robert George Fitzpatrick, James Arthur Meeks.
From the state of Nebraska, James Harvey Ray, Kyle J. McCasey. From the state of Nevada, Jason P. Roscoe. From the state of New Hampshire, Augustus B. Farmer.
From the state of New Jersey, Alan Palmer, Thomas J. Ennis, Andrew Carlson, Joseph H. Riedel, Joseph Pito.
Continuing from the state of New Jersey, Lee E. Hendrickson, Stephen C. Taboni, Peter F. Brancati, William A. Casey, Joseph A. Azcona, John P. Patrick.
From the state of New Mexico, Timothy S. Otiveros, Cipriano Bustamante, Antonio D. Alman, Jonah Hernandez, John Jones.
From the state of New York, Patrick W. Franzone, Kathleen M. Radzunis, William G. Krupa, Kevin D. Knuckle.
Continuing from the state of New York, Abraham Cruz III, Albert Morabito, Alfredo Varela, Anne Marie Smith, Clarence E. Word III.
Continuing for the state of New York, David Portalatin, David E. LaJoy, David P. Miller Jr., Denise A. Jones.
Continuing from the state of New York, Dennis Vitelli, Dennis P. Gallagher, Didarul Islam, Erkan Aiden.
Continuing from the state of New York, Frank J. Debenedetto, Gerard Connors, James G. Becker, James J. Matos Sr.
Continuing from the state of New York, James R. Vanacore, Jeffrey I. Montenegro, Joseph J. Esposito, Joseph J. Panarese.
Continuing from the state of New York, Kevin G. Hanley, Mark F. Lotter, Marulja Clark, Michael A. Pizzano.
Continuing from the state of New York, Michael O. McEntee, Norman J. Coons, Philip A. Camerata, Raymond R. Newcomb.
Continuing from the state of New York, Richard Teamsma, Richard T. Handyboat Jr., Robert A. Noble, Robert G. Porfert, Robert S. Fawcett.
Continuing from the state of New York, Robert T. Rano, Sandro J. Rosotti, Stephen Ringy, Timothy J. Keene.
Continuing from the state of New York, Vincent J. Caruana, Vincent N. Carney, William T. McCabe.
Continuing from the state of New York, Brett W. Martin, Frederick W. Scheidt, Jr., Mark A. Ondas, Michael E. Snell, Stephen W. Green, Thomas K. Herrick, John F. Murray, Jr.
From the state of North Carolina, Arthur D. Ramsey, Frank J. Hagan, Francisco P. Flats II, Mark D. Laskowski, and Roger L. Smith.
From the state of Ohio, John W. Fogwell, Larry R. Henderson, Jr., Philip C. Wagner, D. Weston Scher, John C. Wagner, Thomas H. Bayless.
Continuing from the state of Ohio, Peter D. Andre, Lon W. Boring, William J. Mignon, Lauren B. James, Grover C. Sanderson, Nicholas P. Caton.
From the state of Oklahoma, Thomas A. Duran, Clint D. Lawrence, Megan Rose Burke, Kenneth W. Stump, Ronald K. Jackson, Stephen D. Roselle, David Claude Hines. From the state of Oregon, Arthur S. Hubbard.
From the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Domenico A. Natalia, George Crouch, Isaiah D. Emmenheiser, Mark E. Baker, Cody M. Becker.
Continuing from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Benjamin Kaufman, Benjamin Kine, Charles Barnes, Charles H. Kelly, Charles R. Weber, Dorlin Midget.
Continuing from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Edward Donnelly, Edward J. McCaffrey, Francis J. Robinson, Frederick Hoffman, Jr., Frederick Winters, George E. Garnett.
Continuing from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, George M. Story, Harry H. Morton, Sr., Herman J. Sprang, Howard H. Jolly, James Orr, John McManus.
Continuing from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, John E. B. Robinson, Mary Cannon, Michael E. Shortall, Michael J. Coleman, Patrick J. Whalen, Robert H. Elliott.
Continuing from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Robert John Bell, Thomas McAnally, Thomas Wiley, Thomas J. Ferguson, William Culbertson, William E. Lacey.
Continuing from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, William F. McMenamin, Alexander R. McCloskey, Charles B. Morrison, James A. Dorsey, James Ambrose McCormick, John D. Ritchie.
Continuing from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, John Henry Schneider, Ralph T. Harper, Robert Sinclair, Thomas F. McVeary, Andrew J. Hedrick, Charles R. Scheidt.
Continuing from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Edward S. Mager, Edwin Mondo, Elmer P. Anthony, George Albert, George S. Anderson, Harry F. Beerer.
Continuing from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, James Corcoran, John H. Herensky, John P. Weitzel, Martin R. Pluter, Moses Leitinger, Peter B. Horty.
Continuing from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, Robert W. Mason, Jr., Samuel Norman, Walter H. Gant, William A. O. Craddy, Andrew W. Duarte.
From the state of Rhode Island, Richard Cartier. From the state of South Carolina, F. Devin Mason, Nathaniel M. Ansay, Will G. Durant, Michael Charles Wood, Dennis D. Ricks, Jr., Mark S. Reynolds.
From the state of Tennessee, Justin B. Mowry, James F. Hood, Hugh W. Carlin.
From the state of Texas, Jonathan D. White, Jr., Jesus Vargas, Ruben Garcia, Jesse R. Perez, John C. Ham, Alex D. Roberts.
Continuing from the state of Texas, Gary L. Crawford, Mark A. Butler, Jerry W. Adamick, Jr., Melissa L. Pollard.
From the state of Utah, Charles W. Mayer, Eric Estrada, Lee D. Sorensen. From the Commonwealth of Virginia, Donald R. Gotthard, Jr., Raymond Shacklock.
Continuing from the Commonwealth of Virginia, Cameron R. Gervin, Christopher M.L. Reese.
Continuing from the Commonwealth of Virginia, Jeremy L. Hall, Charles F. Henley, John F. Shank.
From the state of Washington, C. Ed Ray, Louis H. Jacobs, Kenneth B. Salas, Tara Marissa M. Gooding.
From the state of Wisconsin, Kendall I. Corder, Joshua A. LaForge. From the state of Wyoming, Daniel C. Hansen.
From the federal agencies, Sarah D. Beckstrom, Dennis M. Wagner, Jr., Donald R. Kleber, Marvin Risen, Todd L. Spiker.
Continuing from the federal agencies, Mark A. Fisher, Federal Bureau of Prisons.
Continuing from the federal agencies, Eric Cespedes, David Chris Malin, Jonathan J. Campos.
Continuing from the federal agencies, Lavelle F. Van Etten, Alman P. Frederick.
Continuing from the federal agencies, Michael Rice.
Continuing from federal agencies, Air Force Security Forces, Chastity M. Budwig, Jerome A. Sursiski, Frederick G. Smith, William F. Urban.
From the tribal agencies, Jesse A. Branch. From the Railroad Police, Edward H. Fay, Alex Lang, Frank McCaskey, John F. Burke.
Continuing from the Railroad Police, William P. Price, John P. Constantine, Anthony Hample, Benjamin J. Coles, Frank M. Bolin.
Continuing from the Railroad Police, Jacob J. Kucera, Jess Anderson, John B. Mers, Louis E. Baum, Richard Kelly.
Continuing from the Railroad Police, Victor C. Benner, William U. Sprouse, James W. Brown, Roy Hoyle, and Thomas C. Logan.
A correction from the state of New York, Joseph F. Murray, Jr.
Behind every name read here tonight and on the walls of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial are stories and memories that...
Okay, as you guys can see, they have now entered a point of this presentation where they're giving a digital part of it. There are going to be digital candles, virtual candles that they are lighting in honor of each and every single one of these officers. We heard their names from every single state, the Commonwealths, from the different entities out there, honoring each and every one of those officers who gave their life in the line of duty to protect you and I. So I just wanted to let you all know that is happening live right now in Washington, D.C. As you can see, they are finishing up. They said that this was the shorter version of their ceremony because they are anticipating some rough weather out there. But as you guys can see, it's just a lot of people, a lot of families who have been mourning, and now they're just trying to come to peace with everything that's been going on. This happens every single year, and this happens to be the 38th annual Candlelight Vigil. All right, you guys, we're going to take a quick step back. When we come back, though, I've got even more news, sports, weather to bring to you all. You're watching Philadelphia Live. I'm Judea Murray. I'll be right back. Welcome back to Philadelphia Live. I'm Judea Murray. You guys, we have a lot to talk to you all about. We know the Phils are playing tonight, and we hope that they're playing pretty well. They're out in Boston, Massachusetts, taking on the Red Sox at Fenway Park. Yesterday was a pretty good game, but I want to check in now with our sports team. Breland Moore is on standby for us. I'm going to give us a play-by-play. How have the guys been doing out there?
Well, they're currently losing 3-1 right now in the top of the ninth. So actually, Jason Martinez and I were talking about this game on the Fantastic Sports Show earlier this week. If they take 2 out of 3 against the Red Sox, it's fine. This is not a big deal. So it just kind of is what it is. No worries.
Okay. How can you be so calm?
Because there's 162 games in the season, and it's fine. It's only May.
You said mathematically, so, it's fine, Judea.
Yeah, you really have to start worrying about the Phils in terms of playoff projections, probably about July. They're certainly not mathematically out of it, but I mean, if you worry about every single game, you're going to drive yourself nuts. The season goes from end of March to September. Like it's 162 games. I'm not going to lose sleep over them losing by 2 runs here in Boston tonight.
And I mean, clearly the guys don't lose sleep either. Whether they have a good game or a bad game, they come back the next day, like literally the next day, because that's how often they play, and they play even harder.
Yeah, and they'll play again tomorrow against Boston, same time, and that should be a really fun matchup. Jesus Luzardo's on the mound for the Phils. Meanwhile, the Boston Red Sox are going to go with former Philly Ranger Suarez, so that'll be a nice little reunion there. We'll see how Ranger Danger, if he does bring the Ranger Danger this time around on a different team.
Got you. All right, we're looking forward to seeing that. I wonder if you could help me preview tomorrow, Thursday. I think that's when we're going to hear a press conference with the Sixers, because we know just yesterday we broke the news that the president of basketball operations was out. So do you have any idea what they might talk about during that meeting? But other than that,
I mean, usually when you fire your top executive of a team, you have to hear from the ownership to kind of get a little bit more of a clear direction on where this team is headed, what the vision is. So I'm sure Josh Harris will do his best to provide that tomorrow. Also, tomorrow it's just a really packed day in general. So not only are we going to get some answers from the Sixers on what's going on here beyond the statement that was released last night, we'll get a little bit more clarity on, like I said, the vision of where they see this team moving forward in the future. We'll also get the start of the PGA Championship up in Aronimink tomorrow. First round begins bright and early, and golfers will be out and about for the next 4 days here. Of course, that ends on Sunday. So about 250,000 people expected to be at Aronimink Golf Course over the next couple of days. So it should be a really, really fun atmosphere. I'll be up there starting at 4 o'clock tomorrow, and we'll be there for the Fantastic Sports Show.
Okay, I was actually going to ask if you were one of the 250,000, so good to see
Sure
that you'll
am.
be out there. We'll definitely be checking in to see how you report. I tell other people all the time, definitely check out the Fantastic Sports Show. They have fun, they're informative, and if you love sports, I mean, that's the place to be. So, Breland, thank you so much for giving us a run through of what's going on with the Phils, getting us set up for tomorrow, and then, of course, we're all excited for what's going to happen with PGA. That is a big, big event that we finally got here in our neck of the woods after a long time. Breland, appreciate you.
Absolutely.
All right, you guys, we're going to take another step back. We got a lot more to get through, including this meeting. President Donald Trump is actually out in China as we speak. We may be able to see him closer to the end of the show, potentially. I'll talk to you about why he's out there, what he's hoping to do, what the talks are all about when we come back. All right, welcome back to Philadelphia Live. I'm Judea Murray. I want to give you a live look at the White House. Right now, President Donald Trump is not in the building. He actually left for Beijing, China. I heard that he successfully made his way there. He has arrived. We know that later on he's supposed to be meeting up with the president, the Chinese leader, Xi Jinping. Now, they say that they're going to be talking about the Iran war, which is going to be huge. President Donald Trump has been trying to get more and more countries on his side. China has been one of those countries that is not really trying to get involved. However, with the Strait of Hormuz and all of what's going on there, they're also one of those entities that has been having some trouble getting their country's oil and their fuel moving around the way it should be. So they're supposed to talk about the war. They may talk about trade. They may even also talk about artificial intelligence, which honestly the United States has been kind of in a race with China when it comes to AI and those microchips, a lot of different things that are going on in the headlines. So I just want to let you know that is what's taking place. Now they do say that around 10 o'clock, so hopefully right at the end of our show, we would be able to have a live look at the president out in Beijing, but they're supposed to have their actual bilateral meeting where they'll be talking to each other tomorrow. So this would just set us up for what's happening there. But in addition to what's happening in China, we gave you that live look at the White House because Vice President J.D. Vance actually held a talk earlier today. He announced some new steps the Trump administration wants to take in terms of pushing back on fraud, specifically as it pertains to healthcare, Medicare. So what they're saying is they want to crack down on what they say are healthcare providers who are getting rich by defrauding people, by giving them medications that they don't even need. And he's saying that if you don't stop that fraud, they're going to start removing funding from different states. And actually California might be one of the first ones that's seeing that crackdown. So they're imposing a 6-month freeze on some new Medicare enrollments. And again, they're also warning states that these investigations will go on. And if they find Medicare fraud and they don't do anything about it, they could risk losing their funding. I want to let you listen into what he had to say specifically during these talks.
Is doing the right thing, but these fraudulent healthcare providers are getting rich by giving people medications they don't even need. It's a defrauding of the American taxpayer, but it's a violation of the trust that should exist between every American and the people who prescribe the medications. That's one thing that we're targeting, and this is why we're taking this action, is because we want California to get serious about this fraud. The second thing I want to talk about, and it requires a little bit of background explanation, is that we are going to very aggressively encourage the states to take Medicare fraud more seriously. So I think a lot of you understand, but for those of you watching at home who don't appreciate this, the Medicaid system that exists in the United States is really 50 separate systems. The federal government pays most of the Medicaid money, but then each of the individual states actually administers the Medicaid program. Now, we have red states and blue states that go after fraud aggressively, but we also unfortunately have some states, mostly blue states unfortunately, that do not take Medicaid fraud very seriously. So you have what's called Medicaid Fraud Control Units, or MFCUs. These Medicaid fraud, these anti-fraud units within the Medicaid program, we generously, meaning the federal government generously gives these fraud control units many, many billions of dollars across the United States of America so that they can take Medicaid fraud seriously. But let me just give you an example to highlight how absurd some of these Medicaid fraud programs are, because they're not actually being used at all. This is a tool. This is a tool that we want the states to use, but unfortunately a lot of states aren't using these tools at all. Let me highlight this with just a couple of separate statistics. So the Hawaii Medicaid Medicaid program has received billions and billions of dollars from the federal taxpayers. And of course, Hawaii taxpayers have paid in a lot of money into this program over the last years as well. Guess how many convictions or indictments has Hawaii had over the last few years in its Medicaid fraud program? The answer is 0. Not a single indictment, not a single conviction, because the administrators of the Hawaii program just don't take it seriously. They don't think that fraud is a big enough problem. They don't care about protecting resources. They don't care about protecting that Medicaid program. So what does that mean? That means that if you're committing fraud in Medicaid in Hawaii, at least up until now, hopefully now they're going to take it seriously, you have had effectively free reign from the government of Hawaii to commit as much fraud as you want. That is a complete disgrace. In New York, which does a little bit better, but not by much, New York has had 9 indictments over the last year. 9 indictments. That's a $100 billion Medicaid program just in New York, and you've had 9 indictments. Indiana, which has about a third of the population of the state of New York, has had more than 4 times as many indictments over the same period. So does anybody here seriously think that the good people of Indiana are 12 times more likely to commit fraud than the people of New York? No, of course not. That's absurd. What is happening is that the leadership in New York are just not taking the fraud issue seriously. They're not using these anti-fraud control units to actually investigate and indict the fraud. So what are we going to do to fix that? Today, we are sending across 50 Medicaid programs, we are sending letters that will require them to show that they are effectively and aggressively prosecuting Medicaid fraud in their states. And if they do not aggressively prosecute Medicaid fraud, we are going to turn off the money that goes to these anti-fraud units. And I want to say a couple things about this. You may think, obviously, this is a Republican administration. We're all proud Republicans up here. You may think that this is purely a red state or blue state issue. That's actually not true. We see Medicaid fraud issues in Ohio, the state that I used to represent in the United States Senate. We also see Medicaid fraud issues in a state like Maryland, which is obviously a very blue state. But both Ohio and Maryland have worked with us to take this issue seriously. They've worked with the guys behind me. They've worked with our entire team to make sure that they take fraud seriously. Again, this does not have to be a red state or a blue state issue. This is just basic good government. However, states like California, states like Hawaii, states like New York have completely not taken the fraud issue seriously in the Medicaid program. And so for those states that refuse to get serious about fraud, we are going to turn off that anti-fraud money. And if we continue to find problems, we can turn off other resources within their state Medicaid programs as well. Our goal here is not to do that. We don't want to turn off any money. What we want to do is ensure that people are taking fraud seriously. We want to protect Medicaid. We want to protect Medicare. But we can't do that if the states that are administering those programs are allowing those programs to be fleeced by fraudsters. So we encourage, whether it's California or New York or Maryland or Ohio, we encourage people to work with us. We want to help you use technology and other tools to get rid of the fraud, to get to the root of the fraud. We want to help you. But we can only help these state programs if those state programs are willing to help themselves. So these letters are the first step, the first effort to try to force these states to get serious about prosecuting fraud, and that's exactly what we're doing. Let me just talk about one final issue here. We see a lot of fraud in the home health care and in the hospice care system. I think Dr. Oz will probably talk a little bit more about that, but again, you have to appreciate that this fraud issue is fundamentally theft from the taxpayer, but also theft from people who need these programs. Just last month, a California psychotherapist, a woman who had spent 40 years treating patients, helping people deal with problems, found out that her Medicare program had been turned off, that she did not have access to the resources that she had been paying into for her entire life. Why? Because a fraudster had stolen her identity and signed her up for health care services that she didn't need, and so she had been turned off of the healthcare services that she did need. This happens way too much in the United States of America, and it happens because until recently, we did not have a government or an administration that actually took the fraud program and took anti-fraud prevention seriously. So let me just close with one final observation here. First of all, why are we doing this now? Why weren't we doing this 2 years ago? And the simple answer is because we didn't have a president and we didn't have an administration who took fraud seriously. So I want to thank the President of the United States, though I know he's busy in China. All of these efforts, all of these things that we're finding are because we have a president who has told us, take the fraud issue seriously, get to the root of it, and turn off the money when we find out that money is going to fraudsters. So that's exactly what we're doing. But I just want to say that for me, and I think for a lot of people who are involved in this effort, this is very personal. Because I'm not just the Vice President of the United States. I come from a family, and I grew up in a family where we sometimes benefited from these programs. The generosity of the American people is one of the most amazing things about our country. I think all of us, of course, just passed tax day. None of us like paying our taxes, but we do it. And why do we do it? Because we know that it goes to give a bite to a low-income family that can't afford food. We know that it goes to pay the military who keep us safe. We know that it goes to some essential services. But that trust in our government, that trust in our institution, it depends on us taking that trust seriously. How long are people going to pay into programs if they know that that money doesn't go to a low-income kid who needs health care, but that money goes into a fraudster getting rich? This doesn't work, and this doesn't make sense unless we take fraud seriously. So I'm proud to be part of an effort in our government. I'm proud to lead the effort in our government to finally take fraud seriously. We want to protect these programs for the kids and the families who need them. We want to ensure that the American taxpayer isn't getting fleeced. And I'd say just a few months into it, gentlemen, we have done a very, very good job. Let's keep it up. So let me turn it over now to Andrew Ferguson, who's the Executive Director of our Anti-Fraud Task Force. Andrew has done an amazing job, but I have to give a special shout out, not just because she's my fellow Ohioan, to Kim, who has probably found more fraud and has saved the American taxpayer more money than any single official within the government over the last 3 months. Kim, you have been an all-star. We're proud to have you on the team. Thank you, guys.
Well, I couldn't have put it better than the Vice President did. The only reason that what happened today happened is because President Donald Trump took this issue seriously that has plagued this country for decades and is committed to an all-of-government approach. And so to him is to who the credit goes. But the Vice President deserves tremendous credit here. It's hard to get the whole machinery of government moving. You need someone with the Vice President's abilities, with his gravitas, and with his determination to drive at these issues. That's the other reason we're here today. And while I'm at it, I want to thank Dr. Oz and Kim Brandt. A lot of the fraud problems are at HHS, and these two have committed countless hours, night and day, their staffs, their resources, to getting at these problems and fixing it. And where the states are unwilling to do their jobs and fix these problems, Dr. Oz and Kim have stepped up to take care of it. He's not up here today, but I want to thank March Bell as well. He's the Inspector General of HHS. A lot of the work we're going to have to do to get the states back in line and stopping fraud is going to go through March's office. You'll see his signature on the letter that went to the state Medicaid control units today. There's going to be a lot of work happening in the IG's office, and we're really pleased to partner with him. It's a shame we have to be up here at all, and with all due respect to the press, with this room full of reporters. It should not have taken a brave kid with a cell phone camera to point the American people at this issue. This is the result of decades of corruption, particularly in blue states like Hawaii, like the Vice President was just explaining, California, Minnesota, and New York, that have taken tens of billions of dollars to pay lawyers to go after Medicaid fraud that just simply have not done it at all. That's the whole point of these programs. If we have these cooperative federalism programs, we love federalism, we want to partner with states, we love subsidiarity, but if the states are going to participate in this, they have to protect their own citizens when they get access to these dollars. And not only are these dollars supposed to go to fight Medicaid fraud, I want to shine a light on the real human dimension of the complete negligence and malfeasance of some of these states here. One of the things they are obliged by law to do is stop elder abuse. That is one of the express commands that Medicaid fraud control units are given, is you are supposed to police Medicaid abuse and elder abuse in the Medicare system too, where so many of America's elderly citizens receive care. And so when the states just take this money and turn it into a jobs program for blue state lawyers, they are effectively participating in the elder abuse in those states, because the American people turned over their money to these state programs to protect their parents and their grandparents from elder abuse. And if you aren't doing it, you are effectively participating in that process. The Vice President highlighted this problem that we have in Medicaid, which is if a fraudster takes your identity, signs you up for benefits, when you go to try to get the actual benefits you need, you can be denied them. This is a problem we have found all over the federal government in benefits programs. I mean, imagine, we have examples of this. a mother on SNAP benefits going to the grocery store and trying to scan her EBT card to get groceries for her children. And some gang somewhere in California took her identity, maxed out her EBT card, and so her children are going to go hungry because of fraud that no one in the states is policing. And that is why what we are doing today is so important. The states should be our partners with this. We want to partner with the states, but what we aren't going to do as stewards of the American taxpayer dollar is to send those dollars, billions of them, to the states to line the pockets of state attorneys general who don't want to participate in protecting our benefits programs so that the people who really need them, the people that the American people have agreed to part with their hard-earned dollars to help, to defend, to protect, and to get through hard times, actually get the money. And if the states don't want to cooperate, for the first time, HHS, the Fraud Task Force, the Vice President, and the rest of the federal government are going to tell you, cooperate or lose your funds, and we will do the job for you. Because at the end of the day, if the states won't protect American citizens, the President of the United States and the Vice President will. And that is why I am so honored to be able to participate in this process, because this is ultimately about making sure not only that we aren't stolen from as taxpayers, but the American people who are entitled to this. For Medicaid and for Medicare, people who have paid into these programs their entire lives actually get the benefits that they are entitled to.
Is doing the right thing, but
all right, so as you guys can see, they're very serious about this process. They do say that California is at the top of their list if they do not move forward with going with this investigation and doing something about the fraud. They say they are going to pull that funding. All right, so want to check, temperature check. Have you guys heard the name Alec Murdaugh? I mean, I have a feeling you probably haven't been able to get too far without seeing the headlines. He was once a very prominent lawyer. Everybody knew his family. They created this whole dynasty, this legal dynasty. And we have now heard, you know, in 2023, he was convicted for killing his wife and his younger son. So his wife, 52 years old, Maggie, they say that she was shot 4 or 5 times with a rifle, and then their 22-year-old son, Paul, was shot twice with a shotgun at the kennels near their home. This is all happening on June 7th, 2021. So just 2 years later, they say that they had that conviction. He has admitted to stealing money. He has admitted to insurance fraud, but he has said over and over again, repeatedly, that he did not kill his wife and kill his son. Now, today, we got new news that that conviction was actually overturned. Even though he was found guilty after a 6-week trial, he was sentenced to life. They have taken that away. So I just want to be clear, by any stretch of the imagination, he is not going to be getting out of jail anytime soon. He's still facing a very lengthy sentence for those other crimes that I was talking to you about, the fraud and the stealing of the money. But they do say they are no longer considering him to have murdered his family. So earlier today, Attorney Shaka Johnson actually joined our Bill Anderson here on his show at 4 o'clock, talking a little bit more about, you know, what this conviction, overturning of the conviction means, what's going to happen moving forward. And I want to let you guys listen in on that conversation.
It had the country, took the country by storm. There were all sorts of documentaries. People were interested. People were following the case. Mr. Murdaugh was convicted of some really heinous offenses, and not surprising to some and surprising to others, those 2 convictions were overturned because of some legal gymnastics that his legal, and I don't want to say like it was a matter of technicality. I think some of us saw this coming because of rulings the judge made and because of really some behavior from court officers, specifically the court of clerk officer, Rebecca Hill, who was ultimately convicted for her behavior during Mr. Murdaugh's trial.
As a defense attorney, and you've been in obviously some very high profile cases, were you surprised? Because it sounds like most of the people believed that this clerk's behavior was legally inappropriate. They just weren't sure if it had enough impact on the verdict to overturn it.
Well, when you put everything together, right, there were 3 essential pieces. The clerk's behavior, I think we all are familiar, at least with the term of jury tampering, right? And so you're not supposed to do anything to persuade the jurors in one direction or another, especially, there's no especially, while the trial is ongoing, while they're deliberating, but to say certain things and kind of, just sort of start to persuade them in certain areas, tell them to watch Mr. Murdaugh's body language and sort of suggest in your tone and your sentence certain things before deliberations even began is more than just a slight. It's more than just moderately inappropriate. As you now know, because she's been convicted, it's absolutely illegal. You can't do it. When you take that in conjunction with the fact that the judge allowed in some evidence about Mr. Murdaugh, which really has nothing to do with him killing his wife and son, right? And whether he did that. Financial crimes, he was stealing from insurance companies and all those sorts of things, which really tended to put his character in irreparable disrepute in front of those jurors. It had nothing to do with whether he's a murderer. So when you put those things together, the South Carolina Supreme Court said, well, listen, we're not speaking on his guilt or his innocence, but we do not believe that Alec Murdaugh received a fair trial in a way a person is supposed to in this country.
Yeah, and it was unanimous, so it wasn't even a gray area. They all felt like that behavior was absolutely inappropriate. Now, for clarity, he's not getting out because he was still convicted of other crimes.
Well, and remember, when you are successful with an appeal, your success allows you to sort of start from scratch, meaning you get to try your case again. So it doesn't mean that you won in the sense that your conviction's been overturned and you are found not guilty. No. You are able now to start from the beginning. The prosecution, should they feel strongly enough about this, and of course, I suspect they do, they will retry Mr. Murdaugh and they'll have to convict him now without a court clerk, thumbing the needle and tampering with jurors, and without that evidence of him with these other financial crimes. Now, this is such a public and well-known case. I don't know if you're going to find 12 people who have not heard about all his financial misdeeds, but that will not be in consideration for the next trial.
I believe they have said that they're going to go forward as quickly as possible. But this is just for the murder conviction. So the additional convictions that carried sentences up to 40 years, he's still guilty of those. It's specifically the murder convictions.
The one that carries the life sentence, of course, yes.
Right. Okay. All right. So we will be following this. I appreciate you taking some time with us. I'm sure we will be back in touch very soon.
Yeah,
all right, so yeah, you just heard Bill interviewing attorney Shaka Johnson. And as Bill was saying towards the end there, yes, the Attorney General, Alan Wilson, has already said that his office would be retrying that case to try to get him convicted once again on murder. So very big stuff. A lot of people were watching that case when it first happened the first time back in 2023. I can only imagine how many people are going to have their attention on it now. All right, we're going to take a quick step back, but there is a whistleblower from the CIA. Well, he's a former CIA official, but he's talking about how he believes that there have been some issues with COVID that weren't really talked about, weren't really handled the correct way. We'll be talking about what he's blowing the whistle on when we come back. Welcome back to Philadelphia Live, you guys. Real crazy headline that I'm about to bring to you all, but I also want to let you listen in on everything that happened there. There is a former CIA officer who's now a whistleblower. He's also a veteran, but he's saying that there was a federal cover-up when it comes to COVID-19. Now, I want to give you the disclaimer that he does have a long history of clashing with the government on the coronavirus issue, so this is nothing new to people who are familiar with his name. His name is James Erdman III. But I want to let you listen in because earlier today he testified before the U.S. Senate Committee on Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs, and it was pretty interesting. Let's listen.
The systematic failures associated with muddled boundaries between biodefense and public health and an overly complex infrastructure have been exacerbated by documented efforts to circumvent oversight. CIA did not comply with lawful oversight during the Diggs investigation. The behavior significantly impacted Director Gabbard's implementation of several EOs issued during this administration and tasked to the dig. The CIA refused to provide information necessary to understand why analytical standards at the CIA were violated. The CIA illegally monitored the computer and phone usage of DIG personnel, their investigations, and contact with whistleblowers. These were Americans being spied upon illegally while executing duties directed by the President and under the authority of the Director of National Intelligence. One CIA contractor assisting with the Diggs investigation into the events that transpired between 2022 and 2023 was fired by the CIA one day after meeting with the Dig. When the Dig ceased operations, the CIA also took back 40 boxes of JFK files and MK Ultra files being processed for declassification by DNI Gabbard. The legislative and executive branches will continue to be misinformed if this type of behavior is not addressed. The partial solution to dangerous gain of function has already been laid out in Executive Order 14292, improving the safety and security of biological research. We need a comprehensive review of government-funded life science research and a move back to pre-9/11 definitions of gain of function and WMD research, particularly in the IC and DHS. More broadly, we need effective oversight. We must hold agencies responsible for failure to comply with Executive Order 14292, and oversight must have teeth. You must be willing to pull the purse strings, and if necessary, convene another church committee. The results of our investigation would have been impossible without whistleblowers willing to come forward. They are indispensable agents for reform. Despite statutory law, agency regulation, and training requirements, whistleblowers are almost never protected. Whistleblower protections always seem to protect the agency. Every time the CIA investigates itself, they coincidentally find no wrongdoing. When they do identify issues, they hold the system responsible. That last statement is a verbatim response from a Europe and Eurasia Mission Center lawyer when the CIA Office of Inspector General did identify shortcomings so serious, oversight bodies were holding meetings about it 3 years after the events transpired. It was in response to the question, was anyone held accountable? Apparently the system is good enough. The only way we solve this issue is with real accountability for failure to comply with executive and legislative branch oversight and an escape valve where whistleblowers can continue to contribute to mission free from retaliation. All IG elements need to be removed from the agencies and fall under a separate entity controlled by the IC Inspector General. The personnel in IG elements should be 1811 certified with regular DOJ and legislative oversight reporting responsibilities. Thank you, and my written statement provides far more details related to these issues. I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Mr. Erdman. Is it your testimony that there is still resistance from the CIA to comply with the law we passed to declassify all the COVID information?
Yes.
One of the things that I think is new today that I'm hearing from your testimony is that from an early period of time, you believe, and the information you're aware of, is that CIA scientists from an early time after the pandemic began, 2020, 2021, were concluding that the lab leak was the most likely hypothesis?
Yes, Senator. I'd like to offer some qualifications on that as well. A lot of the issues occurred at the interagency space, at the National Intelligence Council, the individuals responsible for conducting or writing WMD analysis. So, and many of those individuals are on JDA from the CIA. But yes, very early, as early as 2020, there were agencies within the IC circulating papers that that said, hey, there's, for example, DOE circulated a paper in May of 2020 that said that all the conditions were present for a lab leak. And I could go through the timeline, but yes, my short answer is yes, periodically throughout 2020 all the way to 2024, yes.
I think the arguments, you know, pro and con for what is the evidence on whether this came from a lab or it came from nature are still important. So for years, we've been asking the CIA to produce the scientists, either in a classified setting or a public setting, to discuss the arguments. I don't see any reason why the arguments should be classified. You know, one of the arguments that's made publicly is that the source looks like it came from a single source of RNA, not like 5 different types of viruses or 20 different types like you had with SARS 2003, but it came from one source, and virtually everybody argues that sort of indicates a lab and not a nature. And so those arguments are important scientific arguments to have, but we've been prevented from having them. We've been preventing from getting all of the declassified information. But what I think is of importance that's new today is that your testimony is that the CIA scientists were concluding that it was lab, but then when this, there was a 90-day study in 2021, and this study was done by NIC, led by NIC. Tell us what NIC is again.
It's the National Intelligence Council, and individuals responsible for writing various WMD and bio-related issues led that.
So when they had this study, they had CIA scientists telling them, look, the evidence, the scientific evidence looks like it came from the lab, but then they brought in Anthony Fauci. And is it your opinion that Anthony Fauci was able to overrule the scientist or get NIC to conclude somehow that there wasn't a conclusion to be had here, we're going to be neutral, contradicting what the scientists were telling them?
So there's 2 questions there, and I want to break them up into 2. One is, where were the injection points, Dr. Anthony Fauci? Where did Dr. Anthony Fauci and when did he inject himself into the IC? And the other half of that question, if I'm, and I don't want to extrapolate too much here, is, okay, what happened with why was there a change in analysis? So I'll start with if it's okay, Dr. Paul.
Sure.
Senator, I'll start with Dr. Anthony Fauci. There were 2 instances. On 3 February 2020 and 4 June 2021, Anthony Fauci had contact with the interagency. And how to sort of broadly generalize this is that contact was happily pursued within the IC. They wanted that contact. And he provided a curated list of subject matter experts, which coincidentally wrote the proximal origin of SARS-CoV-2. So it's not like he came in and said, you have to do X, Y, and Z. He provided recommendations. It's when you look at when you look at what has already been publicly released about Dr. Fauci, and then what you're seeing under the curtain at the IC, where you realize, okay, there is a narrative that was being generated by his contact, not just with experts here in the United States, but experts in Australia and the UK. And that's the public-facing piece. And, you know, he had tried to sort of keep his hands clear of, I didn't have anything to do with the proximal origin of SARS-CoV-2. But in the meantime, he's pushing those authors and individuals that have been in his orbit into the IC as experts. And I'll jump to June 2021. We as the IC at the NIC happily pursued those recommendations. And in one email, which I'll describe to you, the person in charge of leading the 90-day study, you know, he introduced himself to the community that on what they were supposed to be doing, and then the community said, listen, we've got these people we should be talking to, and another very senior NIC officer sent a direct email to him saying, hey, considering that Dr. Fauci is a public health expert, are you sure we should be relying on this? Shouldn't we have a separate set? And in this instance, the individual responded, no, in this case, Dr. Anthony Fauci is a subject matter expert. However, that's directly contradicting his public testimony of being a subject matter expert.
Part of the job in intelligence when you interview someone is assessing their truthfulness, their potential biases or conflicts of interest. Did anyone ever bring up that Anthony Fauci approved the research that went on in Wuhan and that it might not be in his interest for the conclusion to be that it came from a lab that he had funded, that there might be a conflict? Did anybody ever bring up that he might not be an objective witness?
That was one example of an email. No one laid it out quite that clearly. You're piecing it together. We were piecing it together from multiple emails, from multiple agencies, multiple documents. It was more subtle than that. Nobody said, this is happening. And unfortunately, I think they probably should have. It was all out there.
But your conclusion is that changing from the scientific consensus of it being from a lab to a neutral position by the CIA was significantly influenced by Anthony Fauci?
It was significantly influenced by Anthony Fauci's injecting himself into the IC. And to go to the second part of your question about what happened, particularly during the 90-day study, we have documentation that shows that as of August 12th, the CIA was considering calling this a lab leak, August 12th of 2021. And then that changed on August 17th of 2021. Right. And unfortunately, because the CIA would not provide us documentation that we asked for, we have no idea why that changed. And that's
And they weren't alone, because we know the FBI was coming to the same conclusion that it was lab leak, as well as the FBI. Senator Ernst.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Really appreciate you being here today. I know that this has been a topic for many of us for many years, and we continue to get pushback from the federal government as we're trying to uncover the truth to this matter. For years, folks who discussed a possible COVID lab origin were dismissed as conspiracy theorists. They were censored. Some were even fired from their jobs. If there was or is a conspiracy, then U.S. government officials and U.S.-funded scientists keeping secret should be publicly questioned under oath about what they knew and when they knew it. But U.S.-funded scientists somehow are still protected from being questioned publicly, even though they received millions of taxpayer dollars from NIH, DHS, DOE, and DOD. And look, folks, I've long warned about a potential government cover-up of the truth, which our brave witness, again, thank you, Mr. Erdman, has confirmed to us today. I've called for answers from Dr. Ralph Barrick, an expert virologist who showed the intelligence community in January 2020, before the American people knew about the pandemic, that, quote, We may be on the verge of a global pandemic, end quote. Yet nothing was done to share this information with the American people. I exposed that the Wuhan lab received $1.4 million in federal funds, fought to cut off every single cent flowing to that lab, and I won on this for the taxpayers. And I haven't backed down from fighting for more information on the true COVID origins. And yet Congress is still here, 6 years later, begging agencies to share answers and for committees to make relevant documents public. We are tired of Washington cover-ups. And if they aren't our screw-ups here in the U.S., why would the U.S. government cover up for the CCP and other countries? So, Mr. Erdman, Americans would have been angry to learn in early 2020 that their government may have played a role in COVID-19's creation. Would you say such thinking influenced the intelligence community to suppress a lab leak origin theory?
I would say that there's evidence in the emails that it was part of the calculus. I wouldn't say, so it's very, very difficult. It's more subtle. Okay. There's sort of a zeitgeist that runs underneath the analysis, and I'll provide a conversation I had with one of our whistleblowers, and I asked, and this individual is an incredibly talented scientist, and I asked that individual, why don't you actually go forward, go public? There's a lot of reasons not to do that. There's a whole bunch. His comment was, nobody wants nobody wanted the lab leak conclusion, and I'm concerned that there's too many people willing to make excuses for China in this organization for the wrong reasons. That was pervasive. And so the individuals we talked to, they never said, one for one, it's because they disliked the sitting president or they were trying to cover up, like managers were trying to cover up for China. But it was a pervasive undercurrent is how they described it. And I think to answer your question, there's certainly reluctance to provide information that would be geopolitically destabilizing or provide ammunition for actions that maybe they thought would be unwise.
No,
did I answer your question, Senator?
Yes, you did. And it's troubling to hear that there's an undercurrent of making excuses for China as well. Deeply troubling. We spend millions of dollars to have an early warning.
You guys, we have been listening into that conversation. It was a hearing that happened on that Senate committee. Remember, this is a former CEI, excuse me, give me a second. This is a former CIA officer who has been testifying, and he says that there was a federal cover-up of COVID-19's origins. So very interesting stuff there. I hate that I had to cut it off. But I do want to bring you some more live reports as we are continuing to cover things that are happening right now around us. We're going to take a quick step back, but when we come back, you may have known this weekend, PGA is going to be live, happening. It's going to be really exciting. We're going to be talking to Jen Lee about all the preparations that are going into it when we come back. Welcome back to Philadelphia Live. I'm Judea Murray, and a lot of exciting things happening all around town. We know that this weekend Pennsylvania is hosting the 108th PGA Championship, so there are going to be a lot of golf aficionados in our area. Some of them have already gotten here. I know we've gotten some practice rounds in. I want to check in with Jen Lee. She's doing a report in the 10 o'clock news about all the things that have gone into getting us to this point. But Jen, what can you bring us? How are we previewing it? Give us our guide to the PGA.
Hello, good, how are you?
Hey, I don't think that Jen can hear us, you guys, so we are going to let her go. If we can check just to see. Okay, it looks like she does have me. Jen, I don't know what happened before, but I was saying, can you let us know our preview, our guide to the PGA?
Yes. Yeah, sorry about that. I think there was some technical issue, but we had a great time out here in the Newtown Square community. And while we were heading towards closer towards the Aronimink Golf Club, we immediately started seeing signs handmade on cardboard boxes saying $50, $100 here for parking. So if, spectators are planning to attend the tournament this weekend, obviously there is a lot of information posted directly on the PGA website about official parking, transportation recommendations. But, local community members, they're understanding that this is, millions and millions of dollars pouring into the local economy here. So businesses as well as homeowners are trying to take advantage. One of them, an obvious one, being offering parking. And if we can go to the video, the owner of Nicholas Sebastian Salon and Spa, Nick Scamuffa, we met him and his family today. They were super nice and also, told us that having the level of traffic and road closures, especially for round one of the tournament that starts tomorrow, they knew that wouldn't mix well with their business and their clients because they usually have about 200 appointments a day. So, he decided we're going to close the salon and spa Thursday through Sunday, and we're going to convert our 76 parking spot lot for the tournament. So they've actually gotten 6-seater golf carts. It's only a 3-minute ride to the closest gate in the neighborhood, which is, 0.3 miles, very, very close. So they are charging $100 for people to park in their lot for the day. And I did speak with people who went to the practice round today. They had a great time. Obviously, if you love the sport, then going to the PGA Championship is, a dream come true, amazing. But they said that they also wanted to, park at the salon and spa parking lot because they wanted to support local as well. And to them, it seemed simpler as opposed to taking some of the other recommended transportation or parking that's being recommended, because if you take that route, you have to take a shuttle that the PGA is providing, whether it's from the Paoli station or 2 of the PGA designated parking spots or their ride share for the Uber and Lyft's designated drop-off points. You have to take about a 10-minute shuttle ride, these huge charter buses that are taking spectators back and forth from the Aronimink Golf Club. Take a listen to the salon owner and, one of the spectators who's happy with that service.
And I've never tried to build a parking business before. I've been a hair guy for 30 years. But we did on a lot of online, like the community groups on Facebook, and I built a website and I pushed that out, and I did some SEO, which ended up working. A lot of people found us just through Google searching.
You have a lot of lots for the PGA Tour. Everyone obviously is going to buy a parking pass, but let's benefit the local, as I'm local from Broomall myself. So let's benefit the local companies that are doing the extra mile to allow guys and people to access the golf course with ease. So it's not too bad.
Yeah, and the point of our story tonight is really to just inform.
So tournament officials, they estimate from start to finish of the PGA Championship being in town here, $125 million in economic impact for the region. We do want to note, obviously, round one tomorrow, gates open at 6 in the morning for those who are planning to attend. People who attended the practice rounds today, as well as, locals who live right next to the golf course, say, make sure you bring your patients. It's going to be thousands and thousands of people. And there's a lot of road closures. There is no parking, absolutely no street parking in the area of the golf course. So make sure you come in with that in mind. But most of all, the locals here say, have fun, enjoy.
Oh, I don't think it'll be that hard to do that. It's going to be a great time out there. Jen, I had questions for you, but I'm looking at the time. I know you do have to get ready for the 10 o'clock, so I'm going to let you go. But for those of you who are streaming with us, I want to let you know that we do have a lot of articles on the PGA Championship where you can see some of the information that she was telling you all about, those road closures, where you can't park, where you can park, what you need to know about the parking passes if you got one, or if you're gonna, try your luck with that lot. It's also interesting to me too to hear that salon owner, that spa owner, say that they weren't quite sure that people were gonna come in for services, so they decided to shut down. Now, definitely gonna make a killing on that parking lot. And keep in mind too, like the type of people that are going to the PGA Championship could probably afford that $100 a day parking. But it's interesting to me to hear that person say that, because I'm thinking there are definitely going to be the girlfriends and the wives, heck, the boyfriends and the husbands too, that just wanted to tag along but aren't necessarily interested in going to the championship itself. And so they probably would have gone out to get their nails done or get a blowout, but probably going to make a killing on parking anyway, so it doesn't really matter. You're going to catch her report where she's giving more information about everything you need to know if that's something you're interested in going out to do, or if you just live in the area and you want to make sure that you can still get out to go get your groceries or take the kids to school, pick them up, like just to make sure that you know everything that you need to know as well. She'll have more information available for you right here on the Fox Local app, which is free, or you can look up this story and find out her or listen to her report on fox29.com/live. That's the best way for you to watch our newscasts if you don't have cable. All right, we're going to take a quick step back. When we come back, I want to talk to you about the trending stories. What's Philly talking about? And of course, I want to pose that big question of the night to you all. We got a lot of responses in since last time we checked in. I'll be right back with Jake Leonard. Welcome back to Philadelphia Live. Got our big question of the night for you guys. I want to pose it again. Okay, so we have been learning a lot about the Hantavirus lately. We've been trying to show you guys press conferences, keep you up to date with everything that's going on after that cruise ship finally docked The passengers were able to get off. And I just want to know, with everything that we're feeding you guys in terms of the news and what you're seeing on social media, do you feel confident in how the government, how these entities, these organizations are handling the hantavirus? And we asked y'all.
Yeah, so we posed a poll question to you. You can find it fox29.com/go vote under the Fox Local tab. And we just wanted to know, are you confident in the way hantavirus is being handled? You know, how the government is reacting, the information that they're telling us. So as you can see right now, no is in the lead at 60%, yes is behind at 30%, and then unsure 10%. But based on the comments we're getting, it seems like a lot of people say no. And it's mostly because they're just kind of confused. You know, I think there's a lack of information in a lot of different aspects. People might be confused about specifics. A lot of people are nervous, as we were saying earlier, that it's gonna be another COVID, but you know, right now we're hearing officials say not to be worried, it's not gonna be another pandemic, but I think hits a little bit too close to home for a lot of people.
Yeah, it sounds very, very familiar. I can understand. I think also what I've been seeing in the comment sections of, you know, social media and just people weighing in is that, yes, the officials keep saying, no, it's not like the coronavirus, but then when you ask why or how is it not like it, why isn't it going to be like a pandemic, the answers, we're getting answers, just some people don't feel confident in the answer.
So. 100%. So.
You guys should continue to weigh in. I just want to check real quick too. I also ran a poll on my personal Instagram account. It's actually 50-50.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. We've got they have it under control, and I am concerned. 50-50. No one said I'm not sure yet, actually.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So really interesting stuff. But continue to vote for us. We'd love you guys to weigh in. We also want to talk to you about some of our top trending news. So what's Philly talking about today, Jake?
Yeah, so we have this really interesting article on our website. We also have a social media post up about it on Instagram, Facebook, X, so you can read a little bit more about it there. So basically what this article is about today, the U.S. Marshals arrested a 46-year-old man. He's a wanted sex offender from the area. He's originally from Delaware County. So they arrested him in Naples, Florida. He's been a fugitive since March 2026. He allegedly had child pornography, and he has 2 convictions related to possession of that. So, but what makes this story so interesting is that he was found living off the grid in a hut in Naples. So right there, that's the article, fox29.com. You can kind of see it. He was literally living in a hut in Naples. So that's how he was escaping being found.
Jake, this headline reads like you just strung together a bunch of random words and slapped them on there, but that's actually what they're saying happened.
Yes, it's a super, super interesting case, you know. But I'm glad that they were able to track him down.
Yeah. You think you're off the grid, but I guess you're never too far for Uncle Sam. He's gonna find you. Goodness gracious.
Yeah, so if you want to hear more about it, go to fox29.com. We have a full article, and if you just want to get a little brief, you know, check it out on all our socials.
Wow. All right. Well, so that's what Philly's talking about. I also want to address what the nation is talking about. Right now, President Donald Trump is getting ready to officially meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping. And you can actually see live right there. That is live in Beijing, China. You're seeing all the officials line up, getting ready to greet the United States president. Of course, you can see the beautiful American flag just waving in the wind. We've got 2 different shots out there. Now, this is officially supposed to happen at 10, but I wanted to make sure that we gave you this live look as they set up for this. So again, they are officially going to meet before they start talking about a bunch of different things, a slew of topics, including the war with Iran. They could also be talking about artificial intelligence and maybe even trade. The bilateral talks are actually supposed to take place sometime tomorrow. So while we won't necessarily get to hear them speak today, we've got this whole ceremony. They're really laying it on thick for him. Again, they're expecting him to roll up any minute now, but I also want to let you know the news here in Philadelphia continues with some of our local stories of the day. So don't go anywhere. The news at 10 begins after this break.